Hello everyone and welcome to this TechLab. Your assets have a story to tell. Are you listening? I'd now like to hand you over to Mark Finch from Tenovos. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much. Hi there, folks. My name is Mark Finch. I've just joined Tenovos with the remit to grow the European business. This Henry Stewart conference is pretty special to me, having started coming here in the early 2000s, where there were just a handful of us creating the DAM space, and then it evolved into the brand asset management space and a whole load of other terms and terminology. It was fun to see it embrace marketing, operations, creative services. My journey into the space continued for about the next 15 years and was pretty special, watching rich media content and mobile and tablet content become a reality, and then consuming that on any device, on any channel for consumption on demand. Then I had a break from DAM for about 5 years. I went off to figure out the world of e-commerce and customer journeys, the world of conversion, behavior, influence of content on that behavior. And over those years, I kept half an eye on what was going on in this space, given that it was such a great fun journey in the past. And I noticed a few years ago, a group of folks set out to create the next generation of DAM software with the very latest cloud-based architecture and not being hampered by any legacy platforms or software or any technical debt. And then call it coincidence, call it happenstance. That group of people I know very well, I'd worked with closely, and I know have all got very deep experience in the domain. I also got very lucky in my recent customer journey experience, really focused on how we consume content, particularly the behaviors around the content consumption, importance of measuring that consumption, and how we present the most effective content. And unsurprisingly, the most effective content is always the content that tells a story. So you'll find it as no surprise that what sealed the deal to join Tenovos was our mission, why we get out of bed every day. And that's to put those storytellers, you folks, in the driver's seat, bridge the gap between your digital assets and the customer journey. So I'm delighted to introduce one of those special friends from the past who it's so great to be working with again, Neil Grant. He's going to go into further detail on what we do at Tenovos and why we believe modern digital asset management systems have got to go beyond just managing and moving digital assets into measuring the performance to provide greater value for marketeers. So over to you, Neil.
Great stuff. Thanks, Mark. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending this session. I'm really excited to be able to present to you today. I'm going to jump right in because obviously we're short on time. But what I want to do is just talk to start off with about the Tenovos perspective, what we see in the market and how our vision and our approach have really been driven by that. And then we'll lead into some of those key features that really support what we've been seeing. So we'll start off with, I'd like to talk about the way that Tenovos, it's a very data-centric platform. Obviously it is a DAM, but we really take it, we really look at it a different way. And we start off really with the data, and then we really talk about the assets. We believe that for companies out there that are looking to optimize their content, produce effective content, which they can then put in front of their customers and have the right solution at the right time for the right customer, we have a really great feature set and solution there for you. We're, if we think about it, today and especially now, we're at an exceptional time in the market. Behaviors are changing. The consumers want more. The demand for content is at its highest it's ever been. When we look at the applications and we look at the experiences online, content really is driving the patterns and behaviors that we're seeing. And so content really, first and foremost, is in this modern world. And on top of that, we add personalization, and everything becomes really important. One of the things that we see companies struggling with a lot is really how to target and to effectively bring the right content at the right time to the right consumer. So we see this not as a problem here at Tenovos, but we see this as a really huge opportunity. But it needs to be the right kind of DAM. The DAM, a DAM that is data-centric, that's aware of the context and understands the various dimensions of what makes content effective. it's really necessary for companies to be successful today. Without it, you just miss the mark. So telling stories really is the way that Tenovos thinks about this opportunity. As we think about an asset, the image, the type of content that's being presented or bought by the end user, we see a lot of opportunity to really consider all the other information and data that sits around that. Context around those assets and really being able to bring them into the ecosystem of the DAM and help all of that content to get governed. All of the information is really, gives it a unique tool set if you can bring that together within the ecosystem of the DAM. And we want to really give marketing teams the tools that they need to understand their content, understand the types of content that will be most effective to drive the outcome they're looking for. Here at Tenovos, we call this our return on assets, or otherwise the asset value proposition. And when I say stories, just to demystify that a little bit, because we've all heard the term asset a lot in our circles in digital asset management. What we really look at are some various things that go with an asset. As we think about an asset moving into its product life cycle or its consumption life cycle, from manage to move to measure, and then ultimately optimize the key data sources that become very exciting, everything becomes very exciting. It's interesting if we consider that as part of the DAM lifecycle, the data audience, what happens beyond the actual DAM itself. Contextual information about where the assets have been presented, the purpose that they were there for, or what were the goals, what's driving the value of that particular piece of content at that point in time. As we put together all of this information, our goal really is to look at it holistically. And for a modern DAM that has a lot of capability in terms of managing data, we can now access that data, interpret it, and bring it back into the normal process of how metadata is managed along with the assets. That helps us create that 360-degree view that everybody wants around the asset and truly manage it as not just an asset, but as a story, as something that has more value in terms of its impact and its goals and orientations, and what drives really its ultimate value proposition. Moving away from the classic metadata model to a more organic or more open data model to support every and all of the goals and objectives that the companies have with content. As an example here, if we take what's often something that digital asset management capabilities try to do, which is remove and manage the fragmented scenarios and the orchestration workflows from creating a piece of content and moving through its full life cycle to the consumption scenarios. This tends to be really complex, and there's lots of steps, and there's usually lots of other third-party applications involved in the whole process. So we really have thought about that at Tenovos. The team here at Tenovos comes from a long-standing experience in the industry and watched the digital asset management industry grow and change throughout many years. And we see this as a key opportunity for a more modern interpretation of the DAM, one that really drives the value of your assets and data. Which is how do, so if you think about it, how do we introduce various types of data to the process? So when we think about the design iterative process, we can think about the budget data or the rights data or version information and all those different data types around it. We can think, as we move into review and approval stage, we can think about status or revisions or how long it's taken to move through those steps to be ready for its production cycles. When we think about campaigns, there are very interesting data sources in terms of the personalization, our desire to create content that's targeted type of content, that targeting information, affinity groups, audience information. This is all really powerful to the actual content itself. And to be able to interpret and provide feedback to the users as they're moving through this life cycle from a content distribution perspective, there are very important data types like SEO, SEM, optimization. Ultimately, we want all those channels on the web to discover the content and promote it to create that ultimate production cycle. We want channel-based usage data to be considered. Of course, as we move into imagine that post-publishing an asset or story, we want to understand how to optimize it, how to make it more effective in terms of what it's doing and in the production channel itself. So when we step back, there's a lot of potential information here that if we can get our hands on it and integrate it back into the metadata model and wrap it into what we're doing, we can really make a whole very difficult process, very complex process, much more effective. In our terms, we call that difference between a supply chain and a value chain. Sharing that data, bringing it all together and providing it back. Visualization quickly of a macro view of how Tenovos sees the world. We see the classic content and metadata on the left-hand side, which is really what historically the legacy DAM world has been. Now, if we look to the right-hand side, which is where we consider performance data, how do we tie that data, that performance data? The understanding, the context, and how do we bring the notion of KPI and what the drivers are for this information? We bring it back into this whole system, add in a little bit of machine learning, some of our own secret sauce, and then pull it back together and help really support that creative lifecycle and really optimize the content. This really helps us to reach the market opportunity. So what are some of the quick key capabilities that I'd like to tie into this methodology and model around data management? There are really three key ones that I wanted to walk you through today. Okay, number one, based on tracking assets through their life cycle. The second one, around curation, controlling the facilitation of the optimization of the stories. And one other, the third, that relates to connecting the rights data, which we really think is a native data type that the DAM really should be really deeply interested in as part of their schema. And I'll take you through some of the value of having Tenovos, using these, having these integrated deeply data points and really bringing that back into view for you and how that kind of fits into our strategy. So some of the key capabilities my thing isn't advancing, sorry. So let's start off with the first core capability I'd like to walk you through. It's something we call Storylink. Storylink is really a bridge between the DAM libraries, which have been curated and managed. They've been controlled, they've been governed, and the upstream and downstream applications. Think about the Creative Suite, the CDNs, the ability to grab content to distribute it through the CMS to create that engaging experience. All of these applications are tied together through Storylink for us. It's an application, it's a desktop application, it's a plugin. It's basically a tool that sits in context of the creative user and their applications and brings value of the Tenovos DAM right within those applications. It means the creative users, the people building those experiences, building that content, don't actually need to leave their native solutions that they work in. They can actually just carry on working and they have that connectivity in front of them. So as an example of use case, here is where we have an author of a creative building a web page. So as they go through, they want to build and they want to be able to use optimized content within the page. They really need to get quickly to the top assets, the best assets, the most important assets that could drive the KPIs of what they're trying to do in the publishing of the page. They also want to consider an SEO optimized content and stories. So looking at the underlying DNA, the actual DNA behind the image, the alt tag, the image tag, the resolution providing the right proxy or the rendition, so that when we drag and drop assets from Storylink right into the landing page, it's already pre-optimized. It's already for market. It has SEO embedded, and the formats and renditions, they're already published into the CDN. We link all of that up and make that really easy. All of this happens as part of Tenovos. So Storylink here is the bridge, but it actually acts proactively on behalf of the assets because it knows about how we're working in the context of use. In this, this case, the context of publishing. Further to that, what I really love about the overall approach and thinking through the broader data value prop is that we're able to track those assets through the life cycle. With Storylink, because we insert some of the Tenovos DNA through that life cycle, we're able to now be aware of all the context of use of an asset. We're able to track that, report on it, provide analytics about it, and really generate that visibility as to how successful certain stories in the repository have been in terms of being used in the wild. So managing all the relationships around that and tying that data together, ensuring we can track that and generate the visibility is critical to the success, to that success of this particular feature. And so you can see how it is very data driven, but it's very easy to use. Again, we're surfacing it with ease of use to the person that's actually using the tool. It's not simply just about dragging and dropping an asset into a web page. It's about following through, tracking the asset, creating the awareness, optimizing so that it's an optimal story and can be extremely successful in that context of use. Another key feature that's very data driven, we've recently introduced at Tenovos, is what we like to call what you should be able to do in a portal. I'm sure there are a lot of you out there that experience in portal technologies and work with the DAM content and kind of push it through a portal to sort of enable the broader ecosystem around. Using content, we've been using content and the context of content. We've taken this a little bit further and taken a slightly different approach. Of course, we've enabled this through the microservice. We have Tenovos is a very advanced platform. It's completely microservices driven. It has global reach. The platform and backend really give us the ability to integrate everything with Tenovos in everyone's ecosystem. We've also promoted now a way of sharing, collaborating, extending, governing key assets that are optimized and that you'd like to be able to put in channels and engage in that. Further, production lifecycle that goes beyond access to the core DAM, but open up the ability to get access to the stories. So we created something called Storyboards. It's really a way of sharing these assets dynamically based on channel, based on role, based on privilege. So you get all the governance of Tenovos, of the DAM is still there. We don't lose any of it. We don't lose the privilege and the management, but we get all the benefit of the ability to extend these assets outside of the DAM in a controlled manner to really help what you need to do. Think of other third parties that really need access to the curated content. So this is an example, a quick example of one of our customers creating the storyboards. Storyboards themselves can be dynamic. And what I mean by that is that they're constantly updated and refreshed as new content comes in, as content versionings occur within the DAM. The storyboards will automatically dynamically update. They can also be static, so they can be highly governed and highly controlled. So lots of variations of what you can do. But again, as we look at this from the publishing scenarios to the marketing channels and the ability to run projects through using storyboards to track and control these assets, and ultimately all the collaboration use cases you can imagine around this. Our goal here at Tenovos is to ensure the reporting and the traceability is part of the application. So a lot of the data behind how these things are going really is being captured and being available to you. These boards are, when boards are used again, the teams that are managing the DAM can go back and say, hey, which storyboards are used most? Which assets in context of the storyboards are used most? And really helps us to inform the value of the content that we have in our repository as we start to surface it. Another example here of storyboard, which is more around strategic partnerships, is where a company would be working with another company to go to market with a set of products. There they want to be able to make sure they're providing the optimal assets in the right format, the right renditions for mobile, for responsive design, all the metadata necessary, and really provide that advantage. But now having a channel-to-channel experience that provides the best content in the most highly optimized content for that channel, and then the ability to track the consumption and track the usage of that within the context of the partnership and really understand that. We've really gone pretty far in terms of the administrative controls and all of the configurations and the ability to configure the look and feel. So it's really, really cool. We're pretty excited about this feature, and it's really, really data-centric. Now, lastly, but not least by any means, in terms of the list of the 3 key capabilities is rights management capability. We call this story rights within Tenovos. We've decided to really think about these data types as a native data type. So sometimes we can federate data from various systems and we consider those third-party data sources. But in this case, we believe at Tenovos, really, to be a modern data-centric DAM, you need to be able to manage rights natively within the application. And that means that in our schema and the way we think of the privilege and the governance around rights and their associated costs. The implications around having renewals and possibilities around having to manage different regions, different access levels around those regions, and where the content can and can't be used, really is, really could be a very heavy burden. So what we've done is we really want to help creatives to do the right things without having to think about this. We want to make sure that when they look at the content, we make sure that governance is in place. Okay, that in itself is going to minimize the time to create a campaign or the time to publish that optimized content out. Having this native within our data system, there's a lot of data around rights that needs to be managed. It's a very, very heavy data source from, if you think about the actors that participate in the content, the cost to the actual privilege that sits within a document that the legal teams need to manage. We figured all of that out and built a pretty compelling capability that really makes it all easy and also takes it to another level in terms of analytics and projects. So the idea that you would have talent or an actor who's participating in a governed asset or rights managed asset, be able to track the participation of that actor. The costs associated with using the actor in a sort of unique material way that you're trying to create. You think about the campaigns, and you need to look back at the campaigns which that actor participated in and really visualize this and see the 360-degree view of how rights have been applied. In this case, ultimately, to the goal where we want to understand the return on value you're getting by spending that money. So as a company, you're concerned with how much am I spending on rights? Am I getting the full value of those rights? The managed assets, and what can I do to optimize them? And how can I increase that time to market? And where can you use them? All those different participants involved and all the conditions that are involved. Okay, so really, story rights really takes into account all of that. Really, if you think about it, it's really how are we going to help how do you help those creative teams from a product perspective without putting that extra burden on them? Here at Tenovos, we've got it covered in all those cases in our core feature set within Tenovos. So coming full circle now, when we look at it, the context of rights, it's used as an example because Tenovos is proactive in looking to get data, get the audience data, the performance data, track it all through its life cycle using Storylink as a way of inserting that DNA into the experience. What we're doing really is over time, it's an example like this, a simple download request form, which I'm sure all of you have seen in the past. Okay, what we've been inspired to do is the ability to say, no, give me the audience data, give me the intended budget, or how this asset could be used, and really draw that information into the DAM and provide it back as useful metadata to the asset managers, to the creative teams, to the legal teams, and anybody else that needs that information. So we believe in the modern DAM, it needs to bring it all together and bring all that data in productivity scenarios and value around the asset creation and optimal asset creation. These three features, as an example, with many other features, but these ones take advantage of that data centricity. These are three key features we feel are really highly differentiated from perspective in terms of the data and management characteristics. And finally, if we really think about it, just one last piece, because we didn't just stop at gathering all that information. That information is great, but we need some way to present it. We put it all together so we can provide, by working with all the features and the way that you work with the data through machine learning and AI and our special secret sauce, we can pull all that together at Tenovos and provide actionable insights. Not just simply reporting, but we can visualize and show you how an asset has moved through its life cycle, where it's been optimal, how the process has been optimal. Looking at Tenovos and looking at the trends or patterns that you might want to be aware of and proactively making suggestions about the content to be used. So in other words, we're not simply passively they're providing a report on usage, we're actively looking for the patterns. We're running some of the machine learning and we're promoting actual insights in one of the core products called Story Insights. And so that's also something that comes with the Tenovos capability. And we're offering that to our customers. That pulls all those core digital features, those DAM features together the data-centric features, and provides you the holistic overview and view that you need. And the insights, as we like to say, they can optimize your content performance over time. I hope this was of interest to you. Really, what we've been talking about, that modern data-centric DAM, the ability to reach beyond the traditional DAM and really get that 360 point of view on content. Using AI and ML in probably unfamiliar ways when we talk about a DAM, but in ways that are really impactful to help you with optimization and recommendations, and really empowering your brands to elevate the craft and marketing, the art of storytelling, which at the end of the day is what content is really all about. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Mark Finch. We'll be happy to talk, and we'll be around for the rest of the day. Thank you very much, everyone.